Hello, everybody, and welcome to Composer Talks with White Bear PR. Today, I have a very special guest all the way from across the pond in London, the wonderful Nainita Desai. Welcome, Nainita.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Chandler. Lovely to be here today.
Yes, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice to see you even digitally.
Yeah, it's cool to be
Yes,
here.
Nainita is a BAFTA Breakthrough Brit and a two-time winner of the Music and Sound Awards. She is also an IFMCA 2019 Breakthrough Composer of the Year. She has recorded for countless Oscar, BAFTA, and Emmy acclaimed productions, including the documentaries For Sama and Untamed Romania, the Sundance Audience Award winner The Reason I Jump, and the World War II drama Enemy Within, plus the Annapurna interactive video game Telling Lies. So, Nainita, I just want to jump in really quick. Can you talk a bit about your path to becoming a film composer? It seems that you started in mathematics, right?
Yes, Chandler. Maths was my foundation, but I always had music was in my DNA from a very young age. I
Mm,
learned Indian classical instruments because I was brought up as a Hindu by Indian parents, and then I went to a Church of England school. So I used to sing in Latin choirs, and I was playing the violin and the piano in school orchestras. But then I was under kind of social and peer pressure to have a normal education and have
mhm,
something to fall back on. So I maths was the one of the things I was good at in school. I was a bit nerdy and geeky, and I was really into computers as well. So I fell into doing a maths degree, and actually I loved it. And my thesis was on the wave equation, and I formed this new form of sampling and using the wave equation, FM synthesis and Yamaha synth. So anyone who's from the 80s, well, I'm not an 80s baby, but Yamaha came up with this digital synthesis and sampling, and it's really, really nerdy stuff. So at my university, I met Peter Gabriel, who came to see what the students were doing. And I stood in a line. It was like a bit like meeting royalty and shaking hands
mhm.
with royalty. And he came along and said, what are the students doing? And I did a bit of a show and tell and showed him some MIDI programming stuff I was working on. And he said, "Oh, that's great. Come and look me up when you finish your degree." And of course, I didn't, because I then went into becoming a sound designer on feature films. So I got into sound because I was very much into technology and recording, and I was setting up my own recording studio at home. And then,
Mhm.
so I worked with Bernardo Bertolucci and Werner Herzog and all these amazing European film directors, and working on big features as part of teams doing Foley's, and I was a Foley artist and dialogue editing, sound effects editing, all of that stuff. And then, so I was working in Germany for about a year, and I got really homesick after about I mean, I loved Munich. I was in Munich for a year, and I got really homesick. So I came back to London, and I thought I was missing the buzz of London, and I was unemployed, and I thought I really want to work in music. How am I going to get into music? And I remembered what Peter said to me. He told me to look him up, and that was 2 years before. So I wrote him a handwritten letter and said, I don't know if you remember me, but you reminded me to come and visit. So he called me up. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Real World Studios, and they said, we got your letter. Come and visit us. And I basically they offered me a job on the spot, saying, "Would you like to be
Wow.
Peter's assistant engineer?" Um, and so I then got into working for Peter, and working with amazing producers and engineers and musicians like Sinead O'Connor and Billy Cobham and Tony Levin and
Amazing.
all these heroes of mine. And then I got tired of working on other people's music, and wanted to do my own thing. And I met a music supervisor who said, Nainita, I know you want to write the music for a TV, film and TV. I'm going to give you a break. And that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And that happened.
That's incredible. That's quite a journey to kind of get to your current position as a film composer. Now, I also love math and sciences, by the way. I just wanted to point out I was a chemistry major before anything. I didn't actually finish my degree, but I love math and sciences. So I'm asking you, when you think about mathematics and composing, do you think there's any similarities, or do you think that math kind of helps you in your composing career?
Absolutely. I use it every day, not in an obvious way, but it's just the way that it's inherently a part of the fabric of what I do. So when I'm constructing a piece of music, there has to be this equilibrium to this. It's like this equation of yin and yang, and there's tension and release in the music. So I don't do it subconsciously, but I there's a lot of order and accuracy in what I do, the way I approach the construction of a piece of music, and and then in terms of chaos and order, with maths, I everything has to be just so in my studio. Everything has a place. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and all the icons on my desktop have to be in order, just everything neat and tidy, so that I can allow for the chaos to go on in my mind when I'm writing. And also
Right.
when I'm a big fan of Bach, and the way his music was constructed so beautifully. And so
Hmm.
I'm really into complicated rhythms. I have sort of Indian classical rhythms, Indian rhythms. They have this, they do a lot of cross rhythms. So I might write something in 7/4 that has a 10/4 beat to it, and I'll sort of play something and sing a different rhythm, and play a beat. And I'm often told that, my rhythms are too complicated, but to me it's sort of quite natural. So I have to simplify it all for for people, otherwise it just throws them, quite often, it just throws.
Well, yeah. Well, one thing I want to talk about, and maybe this isn't quite so complicated, but is your score to for Sama. It's the BAFTA-winning and Oscar-nominated documentary that Nainita scored. It's such a powerful film, and at times very hard to watch. And I just was wondering, do you ever need to take a moment to just digest everything you're seeing, and or do you need to experience the film and then get that kind of on the page, so to speak? How do you approach a film like that?
Yeah, Chandler, for me it's a very immersive process. I can't at heart, I feel that I have to be true to the film, and to find authenticity and truth in the story and the characters, whether it's fiction or whether it's documentary. And I think it's more challenging actually with documentary, because it is totally and utterly true. So with something like For Sama, it's a totally immersive experience. I mean, I was involved on the film for 18 months. We were in the edit for 18 months. And so I watched, I must have watched the scenes thousands of times, so harrowing an experience. And then to work with, it's totally unique in that I've worked with a filmmaker who's in the film, and she shot it, and she's produced it, and then she's co-directing it. And then through the 1.5 years of my involvement, she's standing behind my shoulder saying, Nainita, I want the music like this, or like that. And that's and I so I felt that weight of responsibility on my shoulders, to not just to do the best job I could musically, but to do justice in my own small way to her truth and her life story. So that was a real challenge, and of course it's a film about, it's this intimate film really against this epic backdrop. And so that process took a long time to sort of work on. That journey, emotional journey was incredibly draining, because you get so involved in the footage and the material, that if I don't cry if I don't, when I first watch a scene, if I'm not pulled into it, I have, the challenge is for me to capture that emotion in a genie bottle and be able to express it through musical notes. And
Yeah.
that's the essence of what I do as a composer, in terms of telling a story. That's the hardest thing, is how do you contain that and capture that emotion and get it out, so that the audience feels what you're feeling as well.
Right, absolutely. And obviously, you said the challenge, especially with documentaries, is when the subject is there with you, or where it's it's part of their journey, is part of your process of scoring. So you have somebody that is very personally affected by what you're doing to their story.
Yeah.
And there must be a big challenge in that. I just wanted to know, since you're so versatile in the fact that you're doing narrative features, documentary features, video games, do you think there's something gratifying about working in documentaries? Like, what is the highlight for you?
I mean, as much as I love all these other genres, there's something that's special about documentaries because I feel that I'm part of bringing a story or a subject to a wider audience, to a global audience. It's part of being part of a team. That's so gratifying, of course, in any genre, but I think particularly with documentaries where sometimes the subjects are so sensitive and dark. I mean, I tend to gravitate, or these dark subjects tend to gravitate towards me, I think. So and when I'm in my studio, here I'm in a dark space mentally a lot of the
Hmm.
time. I mean, I'm scoring a Netflix feature at the moment, and it's a very dark subject, and it's but I think it's being able to contain it and get that, express myself creatively here in the confines of my studio, and then I get out into the daylight and the sunshine and just be joyful. I love laughing and joking and having fun times, but I think I think I have the ability to. I like to inhabit dark spaces normally, though.
Mm.
It's just that's my default mode.
It's great advice overall too. Obviously, if you're in your studio, in your dark studio, working on dark subject materials, do give yourself the opportunity to get outside, see the sunshine, and be a bit lighthearted to kind of keep a balance from your work and life. I think that's a great kind of just
Yeah,
advice overall.
yeah.
Now, I wanted to bring up the fact that you mentioned that you're working on a remote musician database for the current times we're in, with everybody in lockdown and quarantine. Recording must be very difficult. So, can you just talk a little bit about this project and what it is?
Well, what happened? I mean, literally, what happened was about 3 weeks ago. I 2 days after lockdown happened here in London, and the government announced it, I got this Netflix feature that came through, and the team said we want a live orchestral score. And so I rang Abbey Road and Air Studios, and I rang all the fixers and the orchestras. They're all shut down. So I had to let down the client very gently and say, look, this is not going to be possible. But what I can do is record musicians remotely. Find individual players who are set up technically to be able to record themselves, and there are a few musicians who are able to do that and they're used to it. So I thought that I would put together a list for myself, actually, of players and musicians and instrumentalists who could do this, who are set up to do it. And I put a call out on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, and it just exploded. I mean, I literally have had, within 2 weeks, 350 people coming forwards and
Wow.
signing up to this database. So I thought I have to do something with this, and I was getting contacted by musicians, it was so sad. Musicians saying that we've lost all our work overnight. All our tours have been cancelled, or the sessions have been cancelled, and they're sort of almost destitute. So I just thought I would make this database available to everyone in the community. And I put it up on social media, and then I contacted the Ivers Academy in the UK. I'm on the media committee there. It's like the UK equivalent of SCL.
Okay.
And so this week we are going to be launching it officially on the Ivers Academy website. And I'm hoping that it'll encourage collaborations, composers to find musicians, musicians to find work, and I hope that it's a long-lasting, permanent tool, resource for musicians to use long after we're back to some kind of normality.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I see people use social media for that a lot, where they say, hey, I need a harp player, or hey, I need somebody. So to have a go-to database, I think is really smart. And so I assume it's going to be UK located musicians, or is it worldwide?
No, yeah, it's unbelievable. Obviously we've got a UK slant here, but
Hmm.
I've been contacted by musicians from all over the world, from all over Europe, all over the US, sort of Central Asia, sort of Australia, the Middle East,
Wow.
we've got, South America. We've got people from everywhere. And I just think that it just it brings us closer together. And it's certainly it's going to save my bacon on this Netflix feature,
Yeah.
and it'll also encourage me to, and I hope other composers to work with musicians and instruments that they never thought
Hmm.
possible. Really,
Absolutely.
just
Yeah,
allows you to be more creative in a funny kind of way.
absolutely. My next question for you is, you gave tips for emerging film composers for the British Council in Ukraine a little while ago. And if you had to boil it down, what was the one piece of advice that you would like to give?
One, I only get one. Oh my,
Yes.
oh, one piece of advice to what? An emerging composer? Uh,
Yes.
mm, I think to have an undying passion and enthusiasm and love of music and film. I could
Good
say so
advice.
much more. I could say so much more, but I just think that, if because it's something that it's not a job for me. This is a way of
Right.
life.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I mean, yes, I switch off and do other things, but I live and you're living and breathing music and film. I think you have to watch film and TV because so many composers don't. It's
Hmm.
all about the music, and I think that I enjoy film as much as I enjoy music. Um, so watching film and studying film is really important because I went to film school to study sound for film, and that opened up my world of storytelling and filmmakers and I think just it's a never you never stop learning. So every project, every step of your career, you're always on this self voyage of self discovery, of musical discovery. I think that the scariest point on a project when I'm working is that blank page when
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going through it at the moment. Don't tell the director. I've got this blank page on my computer screen, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to write for this. And
Right.
then I just play anything, and you just break that fear, that barrier. So I never stop. I'm always learning something new on every project. So
Great.
yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. And for those of us watching on YouTube or listening to our show via podcast platform, Please make sure to subscribe for new episodes of Composer Talks with White Bear PR. And thank you so much, Nainita, for being on the show.
Thank you. Adios, my friend.
Take care.
Bye, Chandler.